For those of you who thought, hoped, wondered if a new hitting coach would cure everything, I give you today. Not so much. We'll talk about today and all of that next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. Credit where credit is due and context is important. The three of us were watching the game together, and Dave Raymond uttered that phrase. But it wasn't like, goodness gracious. It was, oh, goodness gracious, right? So it matters how you say things, and that's sort of the tone of this game. Goodness gracious, the Rangers had so many chances and could not capitalize. Hi there. Welcome into the DLLS Sports Studios. Welcome to the DLLS Rangers podcast. John Radigan, Jeff Wilson, Elijah Smith, the prophet here. We all watched that game like this by the end because it was just pretty clear that when the Rangers needed a big hit, they'd get a pop-up, Jeff.
Yeah, it was, that double play. What was it? It was a 5-4-6.
5-4-6, maybe the first we've ever seen.
I don't remember one of those.
No.
Just some weird stuff that happened, but the fact of the matter is they just missed chances. I mean, that starting pitcher for the Red Sox, Bayo, was not good. They at least, the Rangers took their walks. They put themselves in position to score. They just didn't get a hit. And maybe the phrase wildly effective applies here, but nevertheless, there were some missed opportunities. And, you look back and you say, okay, is it better that they had no base runners and were shut out? I don't know, but what are they with runners and scoring business in the last two games? 0 for 1,000?
0 for 17, 10 left on base today, and 0 for 7 after yesterday's 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position.
So, that is something that needs to be addressed. If you can address it, and you do what the game asks you to do. You don't always have to get a hit. You can hit a fly ball. You can hit a ground ball that gets the runner to third. There are just things that this team isn't doing that the Red Sox did do. There was the situation where Duran, after what was it, a leadoff double, Duran got the guy to third, and by gum, he ended up scoring.
Yep.
It's something that I'm sure will be addressed by Brett Boone, and the other two as well. But that's just two games worth of frustration. And the Rangers scored 4 times yesterday and lost.
Right.
We talked about how great their record was when they scored 4 times and won.
Yeah.
But
make it 13-2. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that when you get opportunities, you got to cash them in. And when you have a pitcher on the ropes, you got to knock him out. You got to go for the jugular, step on his throat, whatever you want to say. And you can, as Kelly Mann is pointing out here, there's a hole in the number 5 spot in the lineup, but I don't disagree with you.
No.
Marcus Semien is really struggling.
Yep.
Even the balls that it looks like he's hitting well, they just don't really have that pop off the bat. Seems like there's some juice missing there. I don't know what you do there, because that's a $25 million player. You're not going to sit him.
Nope.
But how
once he got 2 left after this one? No, 2 left?
It was a 7-year deal. So
7 years.
So he has 3 left after this.
3 left after this.
And so that's got to get fixed. Jock Peterson walked 3 times. Hey,
nice.
Not sure
Progress.
that was in the Red Sox game plan.
No, and the amazing thing was those 3 walks, 12 pitches.
Yeah,
he didn't swing once in his first 3 at bats. Then he swung feebly a couple of times in his final at bat before. Oh, then he flew out. That's right. He flew out to center field before. But so, yeah, it was really strange. they didn't want to or couldn't. He couldn't find the plate when Jock was up there.
Yeah, pretty curious how that unfolded. But the Wyatt Langford hit into that double play. I guess that's a GIDP. I mean, even though because he's the one who hit the ball, but I don't know if Barnhart keeps running there. Is it still a double play? Does Wyatt beat the back end? I don't know, but I thought that was curious that Barnhart stopped. Maybe he didn't want to get tagged. But at least make the guy make a play. It's going to take some time. So you don't know. But on to Detroit, I guess, where things aren't going to get any easier.
No, and we'll preview that series coming up a little later on in the program. We'll also talk a little bit about our feelings about what we might expect from this new hitting coach, who really, the point is, Brett Boone has not done anything yet. And the guys talked about it on the broadcast as well. He's just listening and observing and watching. And as we saw during the broadcast, if you were watching it, talking to everybody. He had the long conversation going with Tony Beasley during, one of the innings when the Rangers were out there on defense. And I'm sure he's just picking everybody's brain. And we mentioned it yesterday on the show, but look for our YouTube mini pod, we call it, this weekend, and you'll see what Mark McLemore, a former teammate of Booney, thinks. And the point is, and where maybe this will just really resonate, Jeff, with a Marcus Semien and maybe others, but is Brett Boone's MO is very similar to his mentor, Edgar Martinez, and that MO is keep it simple. Stupid, although they may not use the stupid part, right?
Yeah,
but keep it simple. Just see ball, hit ball.
How about keep it simple, Semien?
There you go.
There's the KISS method. Yeah. And that if you listen to that episode of the Emergency Brett Boone podcast when he was hired, he talked about how it's, we might have even shared this on our show. It's an individual thing. You can't you can't rubber stamp it and have everything the same for everybody. And when Rudy Jaramillo was the hitting coach, he had that 5-piece swing that he tried to teach to everybody. It just didn't work for everybody. I mean, it worked for a lot of people, but you got to have an individualized plan. Every hitter's different. You have aggressive guys, you have patient guys. It's not, it has to be, everything has to be designed for the individual. So, but I think that project number one on the list has got to be Semien at this point, and just trying to figure out how to get him going. Now he's had some hits. He had a nice homestand. He was involved in the rally and the opener against the Red Sox, but your number 5 hitter is up, and he's supposed to drive in runs, and he had opportunities to do that, and it didn't work. And you've moved him from the leadoff spot, which has proven successful with Josh Smith there. But man, you gotta find a spot for this guy, and maybe it's 7th. Maybe it's like the 3rd leadoff hitter. And you can put him behind Evan Carter, maybe, and just see if that does something too. But I don't know. There's only 4 spots below 5,
right?
and then there's the bench, and I don't know that the bench is in his future, because he is such a good second baseman, and you do have to value defense, especially when you're not scoring runs. You can't give up runs, so he's going to have a spot on the field. It's just where are you going to stick him? Yeah,
and it's just really. It's confounding because he's the kind of guy who typically starts slow, but we're past the start, right?
Yeah.
And he's the kind of guy who generally figures his way out of this. And maybe it's that old adage, Father Time being undefeated. I don't know, is his age, is his time, is his experience catching up with him? But it's basically been the better part of, all of last year and then now this year.
Yeah, and we remember his first year in 22. He didn't hit his first homer till the end of May. He hit it on May 28th. Right. There's a grand slam. It was at Oakland. And he did not have a good April, but he had started to hit a little bit in May. and maybe that's what's coming. Maybe that, but it needs to come. I mean, it is not in a. It just seems like he's coming up in situations where the Rangers need somebody to produce, and it's not getting done. Now, we'll see. I know he knows it. He knows he's struggling. He tries to keep the negative thoughts out of his mind. And he's not trying to make outs, as he always does, but he's making a lot of them. And today it proved to be pretty costly.
Yeah, they really did. He came up a couple of times in big situations. He struck out with a couple of runners on in the first, and then in the third inning, he popped out to second base with the bases loaded. And, man, you strand 5 runners himself right there. 5 of the 10 that were left on base were stranded by Semien, those 2 at-bats.
Yeah, that hurts. And, well, like I said, he's a veteran guy. He's been third in the AL MVP race twice. He has a 46 homer season in his ledger, but it needs to happen. And that's part of the reason why I think some of the guys were surprised that Donnie Ecker was let go. They know it's all on them.
Yeah.
Donnie isn't telling them to go up and hit left-handed when they're right-handed hitters, or to swing at balls. The hitter has to bring something to the table too. And Marcus, it's his turn to bring something to the table.
It is. He's got to step up. Adoli still has to step up. He did get that really fun and unique home run last night.
Yeah. Drove in a run with a sacrifice fly. All these guys who are, when you leave 10 guys, you can usually find a pocket where it's the same guys who are doing it. And, in the middle of the order today is where it happens. Sometimes it happens at the bottom of the lineup, but the spotlight's on these guys. It's on these guys specifically because they had bad 2024s too. So they're feeling it. And a lot of people are watching them. They're making a ton of money. And when the offense doesn't go well, a lot of times they're not going well.
And maybe it goes right back to the theory that you somewhat tongue-in-cheek floated out there. I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, that what fixes the offense is Corey Seager, right? And he had an off day, a rest day today. And those are things that Boch has to do.
Right.
He will do. He has to do. You've got to, manage the time that these guys get away from the field, especially guys who have a history with things like hamstrings and those type of soft tissue injuries. So he wants to make sure he does all of that right. So getaway day, both Corey Seager and Jonah Heim are out of the lineup. Now, the Heim miss isn't as much as you would think, only because Tucker Barnhart got on base 4 times.
Yeah.
He had 3 singles and a walk.
Sure. Yeah. And Tucker Barnhart's a really good defensive catcher. He's won 2 Gold Gloves, one more than Jonah Heim. He's just hasn't hit in the last 4 or 5 years. So yeah, Jonah can't catch every day. Corey, with his injury past, needs days off, and he was coming off the injured list. I know the team had a day off on Monday, but I figure he'll end up playing most of these games. I bet he plays every day in Detroit. Maybe he DHs on Sunday, but Kelly Man, I think they kind of pitched around Adolis except for one center cut pitch. I had the same thought. I thought that they were working to get to Semien in a couple situations. So but your Seager point is well taken. The offense is just different when he's not in there, and it moves it. Maybe it moves everybody up a spot, puts some, I don't know, they feel pressure, whatever it is. But it was a big deal, and that story that I wrote was on DLLS, alldlls.com/Rangers. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
if you're a diehard, you can read it. Yeah,
become a diehard. We'll tell you how later. For now, it's time to take a break as we continue to wrap up a 5-0 loss, a real ho-hum, a real kind of a game. There are losses, and then there are losses, and this was one of those. But anyway, we come back. We talk more about what was happening. We get to more of your thoughts on the game. We'll comment on those as we continue with the DLLS Rangers podcast. But first, Shady Rays. Man, we just want to remind you what a great pair of shades Shady Rays are. They're almost indestructible. They're really good looking. There's so many cool styles and colors. They've got this color rush technology that I think you might see on the lenses that are on the pair that are shown there on the screen. And that color rush technology kind of changes the color of the lens itself and makes it adapt to its environment around there. So that's really cool, and it makes you look cool, and it helps you to see, which is a huge thing. And so I encourage you to get a pair of Shady Rays. There's a million styles. They have a great warranty program, and you can get all of that at a price that's lower than most of the major brands. So go to shadyrays.com and use the code DLLS, and you will get 35% off your Shady Rays sunglasses.
And we want to remind you about Sleeper, which I need no reminder of, as I'm a fairly regular player on there. It's a fantasy platform that's now into daily fantasy picks. Today, for instance, I didn't think Jack Leiter would strike out more than 4.5 batters. So I took I said less on that. I was correct.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the White Sox starting pitcher only struck out 2 guys, and I need him to strike out 3. So that's the way baseball go. But Sleeper, again, the daily picks, and you see it there on the screen if you're watching, plus or minus points, passing yards, home runs, whatever it is. They do all the major sports. They're doing golf now. They do boxing on occasion. It's just a lot of fun. It heightens the sports experience, and you don't go broke. I'm not betting the rent here. I'm betting $3 at a time, $3 to $5 at a time. So download the Sleeper app, use the code DLS Rangers for a nice match on your first deposit.
Yep, I think that's a wise choice. And let's start this segment with our Sleeper leaderboard. Do we have that, Prophet? The Sleeper leaderboard, and see how our buddy Jeff is doing. It's on its way. That leaderboard is coming.
Suspense is killing me.
It really is. Do you know?
I mean,
how
I'm still winning?
How far your lead is? Yeah.
No,
I'm sure you've extended it. The other guys are pretty much, I think, all under 500. But
I'm playing about 500 ball here lately. I got off to a good start. Now I'm kind of in the 500 range.
But okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm holding firm. Those are a little old. I'm probably right now. I would say, if I had to guess, I would say that I'm about 24 and 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I had to guess.
Still, and I don't know if any of them have managed to get their butts over 500, but you're killing it, and we're not surprised. And so there you go. That's our Sleeper leaderboard. It's fun. We have fun with it. We know that you could have fun with it too. So let's talk about a couple things we've seen there. This is one of those really painful losses because you look at what's coming next, and we'll talk lots about the series against Detroit. But and that said, the Rangers haven't won a series in Boston in a decade. Jeff.
Yeah, May of 2015, which is a decade ago exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm going to guess I was there and had a good time.
I think I was there too, yeah.
Drinking beer afterwards and going to Boston Beer Works or wherever it is I stayed. Maybe I stayed up in Cambridge and found something over there. But the point is, it's not their favorite place to play, and it's good, I guess, that they don't have to play there every year,
right?
Now, and only once a year they have to play there, as opposed to twice back on the old schedule every other year. But yeah, so leave Boston behind, head off to Detroit, where it's a really good Tigers team. They were a playoff team. They weren't a playoff team when the Rangers played them last year, nor was Tarik Skull a Cy Young winner. In fact, the Rangers beat him in that series in Detroit last year, only for him to become Superman, and he remains Superman. And
yes, very much so.
You need to watch out for Superman, who's pitching tomorrow against Patrick Corbin. Who's, our guy. We gave him a bunch of crap early in the year, just based on his numbers, and he's been all right. So,
yeah, Absolutely.
But it's going to be these should be low scoring games. Typically, that ballpark doesn't permit tons of runs, especially this time of year. And then with the pitching matchups, it's not like the Rangers are throwing out you, me, and Elijah.
No.
They're going with some pretty.
Elijah's still got some gas, but you and I, man, it's not. It would not be pretty. Speaking of pitching, let's talk about Jack Leiter, who was really struggling at the beginning. Jeff, he wasn't commanding. He wasn't wasn't controlling. I mean, he was having trouble. Then he settled down. I think he got 8 in a row from the second. Yeah, he got 9 in a row at one point. No, 8 in a row at one point in this game, and really settled in nicely. And as he was exiting the game, and maybe he went a third of an inning too long. If he goes out after the 5th inning,
maybe, yeah,
because that was his run, that last one.
Yeah, they do need to build him up a little bit though. So I could see sending him back out. He was at 82 pitches, so not a ton. You figure if the bullpen got used fairly heavily yesterday, you're down. And I'm sure Bruce was frustrated and thought, man, we should be leading this thing. I should be going to some better pitchers. But alas, I mean, Jake Latz didn't do terrible.
No.
But Jack's issues, I thought he ended up walking a lot of guys because he couldn't put them away.
Yeah.
He was getting ahead of hitters throughout the game. Strike one, getting ahead 1-2, 0-2. And then all of a sudden it's a full count, or he ends up walking these guys because he couldn't put them away. And that's a problem that's dogged him last year as well. You got to figure out a way when you're way up ahead of the count early. You got to get rid of those guys. It doesn't have to be a strikeout. It's got to be a good pitch that they can't foul off, that they can't spit on just off the plate. It's got to be something that's a strike out of the hand, but it's going to do something nasty at the end and get weak contact or swing and a miss. And he just wasn't able to do that. The first couple innings, he finally, the third inning, was it the 4th inning? He had a 1-2-3 inning. Maybe, he finished pretty well. So maybe that's why he ended up going out in the 6th. But, he has gotten better. The first one since after Blister wasn't very good. The last one was okay until the 5th when the Mariners got loose on him, and then this one was, it could have been better. There are areas where he can improve, where he can look at and be like, if I had done this, I would have pitched into the 6th and maybe the 7th inning. We might have won the ball game.
Sure, and where you can see progress though is the situation like it was in the 1st and 2nd, where he just wasn't nearly as effective or as efficient, and he didn't let that trouble him, right? He didn't let that snowball on him to whereas he did last year. He hasn't done that this year, but we continue to see that progress, which is really good. It's a sign of maturity and sort of believing in, basically it's dancing with the girl that brought you to the dance, right? Believe in your stuff. Believe you can do what you've done to get here. And he is able to, as he was in the 2nd inning, he is able to get back to that pretty quickly. In that 2nd inning, he retired the final 2 on ground outs to second after 2 runs had scored, and then he walked the 9th place hitter. So
yeah, and, sometimes walks are intentional. They're the unintentional, intentional. You're pitching around, you're navigating the lineup. You don't walk the number 9 guy. All right?
No,
you go get the number 9 hitter. But it's he's still a young pitcher. But I think honestly, last season you see, and this is to your point about the growth, you see him walk the first 2 guys, or the first 2 guys hit and walk the first 2 guys. His head's spinning. He's out there talking to himself. He may not get through the inning, or he may give up a lot of runs. It was a scoreless first inning.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It was a scoreless first inning, despite the extra pitches he had to throw and the trouble he got himself into. And really, he does need to be better, sure, but still, he gave him a chance to win. If the offense had been clicking, he might have left with the lead.
Sure.
or at very least a tie or a 1-run game, and then the bullpen may come in and do things differently. Bruce Bochy may not let him start the 6th inning. A lot of things would have been different, but there's a reason for optimism. You can see the growth just the way his presence and the way he controls himself on the mound, and that doesn't seem like the wheels are spinning. It seems like it's a more of a controlled environment for him this year.
In control of his emotions, even in that first inning in particular, when he wasn't necessarily in control of the pitches, right? I mean, he hits the first batter of the game, and then he walks the second, but then he got the next 3. And then he got in that trouble in the second inning, but then he got 9 in a row. And then he got the first hitter out in that 6th inning, but he walked Trevor Story. And Story hadn't had – I mean, Dave Raymond mentioned it on the broadcast. Story had a single earlier in the game. It was his first hit in a month of Sundays. He had not found his offense yet. So he's another guy you don't want to walk. He's had one hit in a week or whatever. You don't want to walk that guy.
Yeah, and Story started out real well. But, he's cooled off as all the hitters do. But, there's just, I think, and Greg Maddux, and Mike will say this too, but Greg Maddux is always like, you got to know where your outs are. Yeah. And the guy who's, 1 for 24 has got to be an out. The number 9 hitter's got to be an out. You can navigate a lineup that way. Don't pitch to Alex Bregman, and I see our buddy Leon talked about that yesterday in the whatever inning it was, 6th or 7th, when he got the go-ahead hit. And I commend Bruce Bochy and Eric Nadel for asking today on the pregame show. You walk him there, and it's really interesting when you ask Bruce those questions, because he'll give you all kinds of reasons for it. Both sides, and it turned out to bite them there. But he said 2nd and 3rd, and first base is open. Okay, you walk him. Well, that puts a walk in play. Do you want to walk in a run? No. Does it put pressure on the pitcher and maybe he makes a mistake? All very interesting things. But
ultimately in that case too, Boch said he told the team, that one's on me. Yeah. He should have, or he was at least second guessing himself a little bit there. So I agree. I thought it was a great question, and I love Boch's, because it's not like he falls on the sword every time. A lot of coaches will just always say, "That's my fault. That's my fault," and you don't believe them.
Yeah.
But Boch is always pretty honest in answers like that. So, and then the other problem was, as we mentioned, the Rangers just, the Red Sox were able to get to our 25-year-old pitcher, and the Rangers just weren't able to get to theirs. 2 25-year-old guys, one who walked 5, that's Bayo, and one who walked 4. That's Jack Leiter. Yeah. That is the nature of young pitchers in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and somebody mentioned growing pains. They are growing pains, and it's good that people are aware of that, because although we know Jack Leiter's history, 2nd overall pick in 2021, 2 crummy years at Frisco, taken out of competition basically in 23, pitches great at AAA in 24, and sputters in the majors. He's made a huge leap to get to this point, and it's impressive to see the growth since the 23 season. So you figure good things are ahead. It's still early in the year. Later in the year, let's check back on him and see how he handles these situations, see if he can start putting guys away, because the Rangers right now, they need him. Yeah, there's no doubt that he needs to pitch for them every 5th day. They don't have anybody in the minors who's ready or ready. Let's say that. And then with the three injured pitchers, they're not going to be back till at least next month. So they're stuck with them, and that's not a bad thing.
No,
because you see some of it. 98 on the outside corner at the knees. The pitch to, was it Campbell, 96 on the inside corner for strike 3. You see what it's like when he's got it all together, and it's great. It really is. It just needs to be more consistent.
Exactly right. And we're seeing flashes of it, which is great. That is the guy, that is the pitcher Jack Leiter can be. So more coming up. Lots of talk in the chat about Brett Boone. And so let's do that. Let's talk about that get to some of your questions and also our thoughts based on some things we've heard and some people we've talked to about what to expect once he does put his stamp on this team. That's coming. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Yeah. Everybody knows about the mouse plight that we had, the mouse situation. But it's part of a bigger issue. My wife just seems to want to improve everything, and I don't blame her on their floors. Our floors, we have 3 dogs and 2 kids who used to ride their big wheels and all kinds of stuff on the hardwoods, and it's time. We really need to upgrade our hardwood floors. And when we do, there is no question who we're going to. We're going to Empire Today. The main reason it's not the $350 off, which will be very nice at empiretoday.com/DLLS. But these guys are flooring pros. That's all they do. Whether it's carpet, tile, hardwood, they're gonna come to your house, schedule free in-home estimate. They come, they help you out. They pick the colors. You leave satisfied and excited about what they're gonna do. And the cool thing is, they can start the next day.
Yeah.
So go to Empire Today, empiretoday.com/DLLS for $350 off your new floors. You will not regret it.
We agree, and definitely on that. And did you know that Post Malone is coming to the AT&T Stadium on Friday?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Tomorrow, Post Malone. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the tour which he also has Jelly Roll hanging out with him. Post, of course, from here, and I feel like I wish I'll be gone. I wish I could go see that show. I like Post Malone a lot. I really like Jelly Roll. And the only reason I know about it, Jeff, Nicole
let you know.
Yeah, she let me know.
Okay.
Nicole at Game Time is the queen on that. She let me know who's coming to town, of course. And Post is pretty big. So he was top of the list, but then second was Dallas Stars. You can get Stars tickets there, too. Any seat you want to buy, you get a look at it, just like that little diagram on the screen. They guarantee things. They're fantastic. Use the code DLLS at Game Time. Get $20 off your first purchase. So I see. Let's get right into it about Boone. Mista wondering if Brett Boone is going to put his or maybe it's Rarities. Yeah, Rarities. I'm sorry, wondering if Boone is going to dive headfirst into the coaching. Yes. And one of the reasons we know that, like when I asked Mark McLemore to join us on our mini pod, I said, "Tell me about him." He goes, "He has a huge personality, right? So huge personalities dive headfirst into everything, right? He's going to go in there hard charging." And anybody who's seen, I see a couple of you mentioning his podcast. If you've seen his podcast, he's got a big personality. He's got a lot to say. Because of his podcast, he's kept up with the game. He knows these guys. He's ready to do it. And again, when your approach is what his is, simple, it applies to everybody. It's not like it's not like he's learning trigonometry here or calculus, right? He just got to say, let's go do this. And I imagine it's probably now going to start pretty soon, maybe as soon as this next series.
He's in observation mode, but he probably has seen some things every night that have built up here in 3 games. I'm going to guess he's watched some video. I don't think he's a swing doctor. No. But I think he's like Max said, and again, be sure to check out the mini pod that's going to be dropping on the YouTube channel. He's going to be able to counsel these guys through their woes and find weaknesses in a pitcher and tell guys how to exploit them. And again, it's they need a confidence boost. That's at least the company line right now, is that Brett Boone's going in there to simplify things and to get these guys believing in themselves again. And, you can do that in a variety of ways, but look at your baseball card, look at your bank account, however you want to do it. But results on the field is what matters the most. And so he's going to help these guys do that. He's not going to say, your biomechanics are all off. He's going to be like, why'd you swing at that pitch? Things like that. Make them think about their swing decisions, their approach, and go from there. So I'm again, it's not going to be overnight. I know, and I know Ethan is over there saying, the Rangers offense won't be back after one good game. And he's right.
That's
and
right.
I think we all knew that too.
Yeah.
It's going to take time. And maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe it doesn't happen, but you still bet on the players and you bet on the change, and you're hopeful. But I would say that Bruce Bochy had a chance to talk to him over the weekend about some things, and he said, you know what, if we have another 8-2 stretch, we're right back at the top of the division.
Right.
It's not. And an 8-2 stretch is not hard to do in baseball. It's really not.
Not at all.
If your pitching is going and your offense is going, dang it, you're gonna win 8 of 10 games. And so the Rangers aren't out of it by any stretch, and that's probably the most positive thing about this season when you look at the offense and consider a game like today and how aggravating it was. Is they're right there.
Yeah. Well, they're
18-20.
They fall to 2 games under 500. They're 18-20. And again, speaking of 8-2 stretches, they started the season 8-2, and they weren't hitting, right? I mean, they weren't hitting yet. Their offense hadn't clicked at all, and they started the season 8-2. Now, the fact that they're 10-18, if my math is right, since then, well, not so good.
Not so good.
But They can do another one of those 8-2 stretches, and they build you some equity where you can have stretches like this. I'm still almost amazed really that they are as close to 500 as they are, given how poorly they've hit all season long. And because of the changes that have been made, I think that the hitting definitely is going to come around, but there's just no guarantees at all, and we've seen some of the guys feel better already with the attitude of Brett Boone and the changes that were made, and in some ways it makes so much sense, Jeff, because you can look at either one of them. It made sense to have Justin Veely come in when Tim Hires left, and he didn't get fired. Tim Hires found a job closer to home, in fact, in his hometown of Atlanta. But so you're going to replace him. It made sense to bring in somebody who was, Donnie Ecker's friend, and they had worked together, and they were, cut from the same cloth. In some ways, though, it makes even more sense to have that guy, Justin Veely, who knows all the things that Donnie Ecker knows and does all those things, and then a guy who's exactly the opposite. And you now marry those two things together. It's kind of like, I remember when John Daniels took over as the general manager way back when, and I'm saying, at the time, like, okay, he's got a lot of these young up-and-coming guys who are with him, guys who are smart, guys who are Ivy League educated. He needs a guy who can just do everything with the eyeballs. And they hired Don Welke, God rest his soul. And coach, they called him, he was that guy. He was that guy that scouted everybody from anybody and worked for Pat Gillick and I don't know how many great GMs over the years. And that was the genius of them. They had all the analytics that were what they were at the time. They had all the Ivy League knowledge and the analysis of this thing. He had the eyeballs.
Yeah, and a lot of people also thought that Nolan Ryan coming in was kind of a revolutionary thing, and I think that Nolan brought credibility to the team the franchise that I thought it needed. But Nolan is who brought Mike Maddox in.
Yeah,
and so that really helped shape the pitching because they were like-minded on that. The hitting, Clint Hurdle came in 2010, and really just it just wasn't very, very good for that year, of course. But anyway, going to the chat, I got a couple recommendations here. Luis Robert, I saw that Jim Bowden said something about that. That'd be a good trade for the Rangers. Well, he's hitting 190, and then Jim Rockford. Jim's
ready
nice.
To jump ship.
Jim's on fire. He's typing in all caps, and it's doom and gloom. Jim wants J.D. Martinez, who hit 232 last year, or 238 last year with 16 homers, below average OPS. So I don't know that there's an answer out there. The Rangers don't need more guys who are kind of available. They're available for a reason. You know, the Rangers need their guys who they didn't make available to start hitting. That's the bottom line. These guys have hit, and they need to start doing that. And if they can't, then mid-season's not the time to do it. You probably will eat this year and then make changes in the offseason. But the belief is that these talented hitters who are hitting like crap right now are gonna figure it out, and you have to wait it out. The season is not over, as Jim said in all caps. It's 124 more games to go. A lot can happen in 124 games. A lot can happen in 24 games. So let's try to be reasonable here. You ride the highs and you ride the lows, and hopefully at the end there's more highs than lows. But I can understand the frustration, at least, because it is frustrating in a day like today. And this might be their most frustrating loss. It was very, very aggravating. It
really was. And you could, if you were watching, you could hear it in the voices of Mike Bassick and Dave Raymond. And somebody in the chat earlier said, this team is painful to watch. And there have been a lot of painful games. And in fact, our partner, Abby, who's going to be joining us on the show again here in a week or so, well, maybe even as soon as this Sunday, we'll see Abs on the show here. But anyway, Abby on the social media puts it a lot. Pain, and there's this shot of Boch, just looking down like this.
Oh, that's
Is that
Elijah.
you, Prophet? That's the Prophet. All right. And that's so true. They're painful. They're not easy because, like, it's one thing. I saw something on Twitter where on this date and so many years ago, the Rangers won 16-15 over the Tigers, came back from 10 runs down, right? Those kind of games are fun, and you laugh, and you don't like to lose them, and the Rangers didn't in that case. But, they're not painful. What's painful is watching this team come up with runners at second and third, and they can't get them home. Watching this team come up and having their $175 million guy come up with the bases loaded and popping out to second. Those are the kind of things that are painful. Watching that eighth inning, and the eighth inning was at it was a fly out to right, and then a pop up to short and a pop up to third base. And it was after that Dave Raymond uttered, "Goodness gracious," they're just not getting it done, and those things are painful.
They are, and and the pop up thing. Everybody used to get on Ian Kinsler for pop ups and all that stuff. I wonder what it is, and if it's an endemic across the lineup, then that's a game planning thing, I would think. And so you gotta figure that out, or game planning. Maybe the Rangers are go into the game with what they think is the right game plan, and the Red Sox adjust, or whoever adjusts. But whatever it is, that's frustrating. It's not solid contact. It's being not on time and maybe chasing a pitch. And that's stuff that can be remedied, that can be fixed.
Yeah, and one of the things that Mike and Dave were talking about in the game was these pop-ups, and apparently, Boch had said recently in one of the pregame chats that those are generally a sign of being late, right? You're a little late on your swing, and it has a tendency. And Mike even said, I didn't even ever think of that before when I, induced a pop-up when I was pitching. But yeah, that's sort of the thought process.
It definitely means your timing's off.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Whether it's late or early or whichever it is, your timing is not right.
You're not squaring it up.
You're not barreling up the baseball. Yeah. So those are all things that they're working through. Those are all things, too, though, that these guys know, right? When they hit a pop-up, they know. Ian used to get frustrated as all get out with the pop-ups, as maybe not quite as much as some of the fans, but as frustrated as they did. No, none of these guys want to pop out. If they're going to make an out, they at least want to hit the ball hard. And, strangely, I'm not sure we've seen just a ton of that lately. But, we've seen some of those games, like we said, where there were crooked number innings, and the Rangers need to get back to those crooked number innings. It'll be a tall order to do that in Detroit. The Tigers are off to a 13-3 start at home, and they have just come off a 10-game road trip. So when we come back to the DLLS Rangers podcast, we will talk a lot about what the Tigers will try to do to the Rangers and what the Rangers can expect when they get to Detroit. That's coming next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. And I'm actually going to Detroit after the show. So I will land in they call it the D. This is Big D. They call it the D.
Okay.
I'll land in the D with the DLLS, right? I'm repping. I'm showing people when I get there, this is what we are. And in Detroit, they may not know. They don't have a version of us there yet, although we hear that's one of the cities that's coming. Anyway, I'll wear it proudly is the whole point. And a lot of people on the plane will know what this is. It's really fun for me when I do wear these around and people say, hey, I've seen you on the podcast. I mean, again, I was on TV for 30-something years here, so people having seen me isn't that big a deal. But when they see the podcast, I'm happy about that. So you can rep too. Go to store.allcitynetwork.com. Get one of these great shirts. Get one of the flags. Get one of the shot glasses or the beer steins or anything else we have at our merchandise catalog. Store.allcitynetwork.com.
Yeah. And you get a free shirt, whether it's the one that John has on or one that I have on underneath my pullover, because as we've established, I get chilly. There's just all kinds of reasons to be a diehard, not just the T-shirt. It's getting to read all of the content that we write, that we paywall for all 4 of the major sports. Stars are in the playoffs. The Cowboys are wheeling and dealing. The Mavs are a dumpster fire, and the Rangers can't hit. All things you want to read about, and it's going to be all year. We write in the off season, where actually we were probably busier than in season, and then we have this wonderful podcast. All four of our beats have a podcast, and more is coming. We have events. You get 20% off of those events, and you get a chance to be in the know and be able to outsmart your friends with what you read when you're a diehard member. So do that today.
Yeah, good timing, man. That he said his last word and it hit 2 minutes, right?
Yeah,
that's
I'm dialed in today.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's rolling. So this Tigers series, and I see all the words in the chat that are saying, I don't feel good about this. I don't feel good about this. There's plenty of reason not to, because again, I mentioned Tigers 13-3 at home. I think might be their best start. I know it's their best start ever at Comerica, and I think it's maybe their best start. Yeah, it is. It's their best start at home. I remember this now, since 1911. Tiger Stadium, then Briggs Field, was built in 1912.
Oh,
so in 2 stadiums now, this is their best start ever. So it's big. They're off to a good start. They sort of have done what the Rangers we thought was going to be the thing. They got the hitting and they've got the pitching right now. Their team ERA is better right now than the Rangers, as good as the Rangers is. That said, let's look at the pitching matchups, and maybe this will give you a little more calm as we head into the series. Obviously, as much as we like Patrick Corbin and that 328, Tarik Skull is very, very difficult, and especially there at Comerica. So
he looks kind of crazy in that picture.
He does, and that's a tough matchup. The Prophet said he tried to find one where he didn't look like he had just seen a ghost, but no such luck. But then on the other 2 days, Jeff, the Rangers have a decided advantage, and I'm not trying to disparage Jack Flaherty, who won a World Series ring last year, or Reese Olson by any means. They both have good numbers. Flaherty's win-loss record not that great, but Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi, I'll take my chances with those 2 guys against Flaherty and Olson any day.
100%. There's no question about it. Again, not a lot of runs are going to be scored in this series. It's going to be a good series. You're going to have to manufacture runs. You're going to have to do what the game asks you to do. Both offenses. You're not going to be seeing. I don't think you'll be seeing a lot of balls hit out of the ballpark.
Mm-mm.
So runner at second, no outs. What do you got to do? Get him to third, for God's sake. Hit a ball to the second baseman. Hit a deep fly ball that allows him to tag up and go to third. Then when he's at third, what do? Well, hit a fly ball, hit a grounder up the middle, whatever you got to do to get the run home. You don't have to do it with a hit. I think the stolen base for the right players is a big player right now for the Rangers, or should be. I think Adolis can steal bases. Carter can. Langford
Wyatt
can.
Yeah.
Josh Smith can. Get on the bases. If somebody's not going to get you over, get yourself over. All right. So it's rough out there, and I think fans of offense will be disappointed to watch this series. But there's a chance for some pretty good baseball to be played and some really good pitching to be out on the mounds on both teams. So it's kind of the series I like.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer 4-3 or 3-2 as opposed to 9-8 or 11-7. I really do.
Or 16-15.
Yeah,
like
16
this
to
date,
15. Yeah,
whatever many
yeah,
years
yeah,
ago.
Yeah.
So you have to like the Rangers' chances from a pitching perspective, and you have to hope, right, that eventually the hitting will turn around. We were, kidding about it on the very first game after they had made this change at hitting coach, and the Rangers, had that big offensive night, and we were like, there you go, they fixed everything. We knew they hadn't, right? We knew at that point that Brett Boone hadn't done anything in order to place his stamp on this team. It'll happen. Whether or not that necessarily makes the offense better, I don't know, because, again, it still comes down to players doing what they do. But to some of the points that I've seen in the chat, it's a tall order to ask your offense to carry you at Comerica Park, right? I mean, That's why it's a good thing that the Rangers pitchers have been so good and that they're sending 2 of their 3 best out there on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, and they're giving them a chance 4 out of 5 times through the rotation. The last 2 times through the rotation, 8 times they've given up 2 runs or less. The only 2 instances where Jack Leiter starts, and they were okay until they weren't. So the pitching's been there. The bullpen didn't have its best night last night, but was good today with Latz. Was good on Tuesday with the big lead. So again, the pitching's not the problem, and be fortunate, be so thankful for that, because the Rangers could be a lot worse considering where the offense is. I did see something though that I wanted to get to. Somebody said not that long ago, Prophet, about trading Adolis at the deadline, and you know what? That's a pretty interesting one, because he hasn't really endeared himself here, right?
No,
these last couple of years, he's making 9.25. He has 1 more year of arbitration left, and yeah, Ethan, he kind of is what he is. I just think there's this big misconception about him. He's never, his career average entering last season was less than 250. He doesn't have a career 300 on base percentage. So you know what you're getting with this guy. And after this many years, if it hasn't gotten better, I see your point. But yeah, it might be worth taking a look. I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. If he stays on the team next offseason, what are you going to do with Adolis Garcia? I could see him being non-tendered. Honestly.
Well, because you got a guy named Alejandro Osuna.
You got a guy named Sebastian Walcott.
And Walcott,
who is not going to be the shortstop on this team when he's ready for the major leagues. And so he's going to have to learn how to play another position, and right field just might be it. So look, somebody told me before the season, if Adolis isn't this good, or is having another year like he did last year, and Walcott tears up AA and then goes to AAA and tears it up, they might have to think about doing something with Adolis. So, hey, there you go. Trade him for what? Whatever you can get.
Yeah,
all right?
At that
because
point. If your other option is going to be to just non-tender him.
Yeah. You get something for him, and I'm sure that there's a team out there that'd be like, hey, we can fix this guy. I'm sure there are 29 hitting coaches out there, probably 30 with Brett Boone, who think, oh, I can fix him. Well, you know what? Good luck. And then there's another question about Kyle Higashioka and when he's going to return. He's going to return on the 10th day. There was never any doubt about that, according to Bruce Bochy. And the 10th day, trying to think of when he went on the injured list.
Yeah,
it could be this weekend.
Yeah.
So expect him back, and then that brings up a question. I was kind of contemplating. I don't know, yesterday or last night when I do these things, like I don't have a life, but would the Rangers keep a third catcher? And the reason I bring that up is because right now the roster with Duran up and Smith available to play the outfield, and then you have Krim at first. You would have Dustin Harris also, who could play the outfield. Would you consider keeping a catcher at the expense of Harris or Krim? And that way you can have your two catchers in the lineup every day without worrying about, oh God, we may lose the DH or something like that if something were to happen.
Sure.
And they've done it in the past. Higashioka is eligible May 10th.
Okay.
So that is 2 days. So anyway,
yeah, and it seems to me, given that choice right there, Jeff, Harris seems expendable. He was the DH today. You've got Evan Carter back.
Yeah.
You've got a surplus of outfielders right now. So they want to keep right now, obviously, Wyatt in left field as often as they can, and they're still going to, ride Adolis in right field as often as they can. So it only leaves center field, and granted, until Pilar comes back, maybe he's not quite as expendable, but he seems like, he's a chance. But you're right. Either one. Blaine Krim, too. They haven't, I think they've already used Josh Smith once at first base when
twice
Blaine Krim was here.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and then our good buddy Gallagher Champ, everyone who blamed every single loss on Leote now taking a deuce on Adolis. I think Adolis was getting plenty of blame. But before Leote was claimed by the Mariners, I think Adolis took plenty of blame. What about Jock? Well, he's been better.
Yeah.
He has been. And I agree that needs to be a lot better. But with the 3 walks a day and a couple hits each of the last couple days or earlier in the series, and then that Giants series, he didn't play a lot in the series, the homestand.
Right.
There are a lot of lefties.
A lot of lefties. That's right.
It seems like that's trending the right way, and it still needs time, and he still makes a lot of money. And yeah, maybe there's a decision to make there, but he does have a contract for next year, whereas Adolis is just in his final year of arbitration.
You're not trading that contract, and you're not with that money. You're not going to non-tender the guy. No,
and you're not going to find an easy place for him to go unless it's back to a place like Arizona or somewhere he's had success. But he needs to clean it up for sure, no doubt about it. But there are signs that things are headed the right way.
Yep, and that's good. I mean, that's a really good sign because, again, he's been that, he was one of the guys that they brought in to make this offense right, to address the needs of the offense. And I saw somebody in the chat, compared this year's team ERA at this point, team batting average at this point, 232 to last year, 238. Yeah, it's worse. It's actually worse this year. Is this what they are? Well, I don't know, because there are a lot of different pieces in there this year, including Jock Peterson, including Jake Berger, who's been in there, quite a bit. I mean, there's different players within that batting average, and that is way too low. I mean, that's silly low. But I don't know that necessarily indicates this is who they are as players.
Yeah. Kellyman is clarifying Jock with 3 catchers. Well, he'd still be in the lineup and on the bench, and he can play first, as we've seen the last couple of days. So it's still a little. I can see there's not a lot of flexibility when you have a third catcher and then a guy who can only really DH. But I just think it's something the Rangers will at least throw out there because Barnhart can't be optioned.
No.
He's got to be DFA'd. And then you're left with Chad Wallach and Cooper Johnson, who just got to AAA. So then you're wondering a little bit about your catching depth.
Yeah.
Eric Matthews, we want to believe in this team so badly. Well, so do we. The more we think the more the team wins, the better ratings we'll get, and the more money our company will make. So yeah, hell, we want them to. We believe in them too.
We do, and it's easy. I get the frustration. I get the who was it? Jim Rockford's of the world. Is that who was it?
Yeah.
Jim Rockford?
The Rockford Files.
I didn't realize. I didn't catch his until I just said it. Oh, the Rockford Files. I get it, Jim. I see what you did there. Anyway, I get the frustration too, because it was a frustrating game. It's really been a frustrating start to the season, but let's see what happens. These new changes that they've made haven't taken effect yet. They haven't taken hold. Let's see what happens when they do. We'll have this conversation again and again. Starting Sunday, we'll bring you a getaway day game from Detroit, and hopefully we'll be feeling a lot better about things than we are as they leave Boston. That's going to do it for the DLLS Rangers post-game podcast. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you again Sunday on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.